On the Mack Truck Sports Podcast, we dive deep, talking ball games from NFL to the NBA League, athletes, talking coaches, strategizing. Every episode, we bring you the latest. From soccer fields to tennis courts so vast, we cover every sport night and day fast. Hear the stories, the wins, the losses too. Our passions for sports, no matter the crew. Mack Truck Sports, where the talk never ends, from the big leagues to the little friends. Get ready for the ride, we're just getting started. Mack Truck Sports, let's make this a
Good afternoon. Welcome in. You are listening, watching, viewing another edition of the almost coveted show, the Mack Truck Podcast, the Mack Truck Show, presented to you by TikTok Live. Shout out TikTok, shout out Facebook, and StreamYard Live as well. Brought to you by Ken Brooks, the Mack Truck. Welcome in. It's a Wednesday here, folks, to talk about. Short Dr. college football recap for week 10 going into week 11 here this week. I'm doing a full World Series recap in terms of the craziness that is the 2025 now World Series champion of the LA Dodgers. Getting some NFL recap and an introduction to the Women's Professional Baseball League, which came out on the 21st of October. So we're going to get into that. And then we do have one of our coolest topics back here on the docket for the time being, called our Women's Sports Minute and or discussion topic. So this Wednesday is our discussion topic, and we'll get to that later on in the show. I will tell you, if you follow MMA and have been following the track that Ronda Rousey has been on lately, you're going to find this topic very interesting. And frankly, to be quite honest with you, if I'm being honest with myself in terms of just that topic in its entirety, I think Ronda Rousey has a point. I think Ronda Rousey makes sense. I think what Ronda Rousey has said, just in terms of Joe Rogan, is completely correct and fair. So we are going to get into it here. This portion of the show is brought to you by Them Patton Spirits. Daniel and Jen Patton's coveted a line of adult beverages. You can find them on Instagram at Them Pattons. That's at THEMPATTONS. And tell them the Mack Truck sent you. They are one of the official sponsors of the Mack Truck Show, the Mack Truck Podcast. Also, huge shout out to our business partner and our best friend in Evan Thunder Bradfield and In My Bag Apparel and Customs. Make sure you're getting all your apparel and customs, whether Mack Truck, whether In My Bag, or any other artist, to your clothing repertoire. Tell them the Mack Truck sent you. You can order your Mack Truck merchandise through me or through the Whatnot app, BigCartel.com, Instagram, or just by simply shooting Evan a quick message to say, hey, I want to buy stuff. Because again, if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't know about it if it were for me, or unless you already knew about the product. Now, getting into sports. Now, listen, like I said, it's Wild Wednesday here. We try to keep it a little spicy here on the show. We're just, again, getting back into a space where we can, get back to the airwaves and, have our conversations and do our sports and such and whatnot. And I'm kind of mad at myself, frankly, just in terms of this topic, that I didn't know that this was a thing until, when it came out. I saw some hankerings of it in terms of in terms of it possibly being a thing. But there is now a newly vamped, I should say, professional women's baseball league, literally called the Women's Professional Baseball League. And it was announced on the 21st of October. So just about 2.5 weeks ago, towards the end of October here in 2025. Like I said, the inaugural season will be in 2026. When the league itself was announced, it was announced with behind the idea, obviously, of the ever favorite American history in terms of sports movies called A League of Their Own. Obviously, if you guys have never seen or heard of that movie, I highly suggest you do so. It literally is one of the staples as to why women play sports so heavily in 2025, and especially now baseball being a thing. There's it was slated to be 6 teams. Currently, there's 4. Those 4 teams are in LA, Boston, New York, and San Francisco, I believe. There are some other teams, cities and teams coming out with possibilities as well. So we'll stay tuned with that. They are going to obviously run like a regular season. They're going to have a regular season, an all-star break, and a playoff break in terms of like rosters games, just like the MLB. If you guys watch Major League Baseball, obviously we're going to get to that in a little bit. But if you're watching Major League Baseball, it's going to be a very similar template to that. Going to be a 15-person roster in terms of 15 girls. And over this past summer, they had their WPBL tryouts that had over 100 plus girls and women trying out for these teams. And for those of you who remember the pitching phenom from the I believe it was 2013, 2014 Major League or the Little League Baseball World Series, and Monet Davis. Monet Davis tried out for the team. There hasn't been any team rosters or anything put out as of yet, as I was doing my notes and getting everything ready to come on to show with you guys for today. But just so you guys are also aware, this is the first one of the first bigger power leagues for women outside of like the WNBA. I mean, obviously, like if you guys know about Title IX, in terms of like the school system, in order for schools and teams to have gender specific sports, each sport or each entity has to have a counterpart, whether male or female. So if there's a baseball team, there has to be a softball team. If there's a men's gymnastics team, has to be a women's gymnastics team, or girls gymnastics team. There has to be a counterpart, or the respective person has to be allowed to try out for the team. Obviously playing time isn't guaranteed, game time isn't guaranteed, but you cannot discriminate the opposite gender from trying out for a sport they want to play unless that team or school has that sport for the opposite sex. So I'm kind of getting off topic, and that's a little bit of the topic that we're going to talk about tomorrow. So if you tune in tomorrow, we'll also have that discussion as one of our discussion topics for our Thursday food for thought. Now just kind of going back into the women's professional baseball league itself. Like I said, it was the league itself was I was starting for co-founders, MLB's first women's coach for the Oakland A's, Justine Segal in 2015. Again, like with this league coming out, it was obviously inspired by the movie. It was obviously inspired by the pure fact that girls and women don't just play softball. Girls and women also play baseball. In fact, if you guys tuned in to any of our shows in the springtime, you'll remember I talked about a young lady who got her first D1 collegiate baseball start at, I believe, Brown University as a lefty batter, and got on base a couple times. There's also been, just in terms of, female athletes playing male dominated sports. We have the women's football player from a couple of years ago play middle linebacker at a D2 school and tore it up. So obviously there's opportunities for women and girls to excel, whether it is a male dominated sport, a female dominated sport, whatever. Sports don't have a gender. That, y'all know how I feel about that. Either way, fact of the matter is we have a brand new league coming to the power realm of sports, and I'm excited to see how this shakes out, because now we're going to be able to see, like, okay, are there going to be, more women and girls playing baseball in high school, or is there going to be more women and girls trying to get those, big D1 scholarships to play on college, collegiate baseball teams, those types of things. Like, what are we going to start to see when it comes to the high school and college shakeup in terms of these sports? So the Women's Professional Baseball League is now another entity for women and girls to keep playing and progressing in the sport that they have known to love. In this case, it's baseball. Obviously, we still have, the WNHL, the WNBA, obviously, Olympic team sports, MMA, things like that. But in terms of just like straight up women's leagues, WNBA, WNHL, and now the WPBL are a thing. Furthermore, like I said, 15 players to each club. All the WPBL games will be held in a neutral site in 2026, obviously, until the league itself starts to grow and we can start to find those spots in these respective cities and surrounding cities to kind of get those, facilities built, everything, those types of things like that. So, and you always want to try to be mindful. And I want people to really understand that, like, just because you're you and I am me doesn't mean we can't share the entity of sports. If you can perform the athletic task to the best of your ability and better than your competitors, that's all that matters. I am such a huge advocate for sports not having a gender. I think I could say it till I'm blue in the face, frankly. But that's another topic. Like I said, we'll get into that more or less tomorrow. Like I said, the start of the WPBL in terms of where the games, in terms of that neutral site is going to be later announced, probably early 2026, because we're not quite sure if it's going to run it, obviously, like in between spring training for MLB, or if it's going to end up being kind of like the WNBA, where it's in that spring, that mid-spring to late summer, fall area. So, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to in terms of that inception. Like I said, it'll be also the first women's league since the All-American Girls Baseball League. Obviously, like I said, kind of immortalized and kind of immobilized through that movie, A League of Their Own. So I'm excited to see this take off. I think it's a great idea. I'm trying to figure out why this wasn't an idea before, but obviously because you have to have some kind of traction with it. You have to be able to find enough athletes. It's obviously a whole process to try to start a league in that type of respect. So I'm here for it. You're here for it. If you're not, I don't know what you're watching my show for, because we talk sports and we're realistic about sports. I'm also a female, and I love this for me. I love this for you. And if you're watching through the hallway here on the TikTok, or on our stream in terms of Discord, YouTube, all the things, drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, all the things. Okay. I appreciate all of you. Now, the one thing I will say about this league itself is, why was it so under the radar in terms of like coming to fruition? That's what I want to know. And maybe that's just a mistake on my part in terms of like not really understanding like how this has just been missed completely in terms of like being talked about across the sports world. But obviously, because it's a brand new thing, there's not going to be a lot to talk about when it comes to that type of thing. There's not going to be a lot, and it's totally fine. But what we will end up seeing is, obviously, as as they start to find some of these collegiate athletes, some of these high school athletes, that type of thing, to express interest in the complete fact that they want to play baseball and not, I don't want to play softball, I'm a baseball player. I want to play on the women's league. I want to play on the men's collegiate team. And like I said, I think I'm more or less interested to see if some of these colleges, I'm talking like bigger, like D2, D1 schools, are going to start to realize like, okay, this is another opportunity for us to make money, but it's got to get traction first. And I think that's the biggest misconception when people try to have these debates about starting new leagues and having debates about what's making revenue, what's not, those types of things, and those types of conversations we've had before, we'll continue to have, because it provides transparency, all the things. So it's really more or less just about kind of waiting out and see what comes about the league itself, because this could be one of those things, and knock on wood that it doesn't end up being like that. This could be one of those leagues where they experiment, it doesn't get enough traction, they end up losing money, and then they have to go back to the drawing board. It also could be one of those things where it's like, oh, there's a bunch of up and coming young baseball playing girls from collegiate and high school systems that, okay, now I don't necessarily have to try to compete with the boys or with other players. I can compete with like-minded people, that type of thing. So I am very much on board with this. I can't wait to see what more comes about it. I can't wait to see just the entirety of how this goes about. And I, for one, am just completely engulfed in the fact that there's just another league that we can, try to get out there. There's another league or entity where we're going to be able to, kind of watch the league grow, kind of like we've done with the WNBA, obviously, like we've done with the NBA, MLB, PGL, PGA, boxing, all, obviously all the sports that we all follow individually, whether individually or collectively. So I'm excited to see it. I frankly, I can't wait. I'm here for it, been here for it. Either way, we're moving on into the next topic. This portion of the show is brought to you by, again, none other than Evan Thunder Bradfield and In My Bag Apparel. You can find him at bigcartel.com, the Whatnot app, or the TikTok shop. You can also buy Mack Truck merch and In My Bag apparel merch through the TikTok shop as well. Make sure you're hitting Evan up. Make sure you're leaving a good review. Again, like, share, follow, and subscribe. Also, to him and his brother's coveted podcast, the Recognized Game podcast with the Thunder Boys, Evan, Thunder Bradfield, and Caleb, Money Man, CB the Bully, Bradfield himself. You can check that out also on the Tired Sports Network as well. Listen, folks, collegiate football this week was crazy. Okay, let me just tell you this right now. Iowa won. Okay, they were on a bye week and they won the bye week. Don't argue. Argue with your mama, not me. Okay, listen. Either way, college football was nuts this week. Okay, I mean, we've had 3 teams in the top 10, top 15 fall. 2 teams that they shouldn't have. There was teams that have fallen in competitive manners. It's been nuts. But that's what happens in the realm of sports, people. Quite literally, that's a thing. We're going to start with the Mack Truck College watch list here. Again, if you're just joining us, whether you're on these streams over here or these streams on the TikTok, thank you for joining me. Like I said, my name is Mackenzie Brooks. This is the Mack Truck Podcast, the Mack Truck Show, presented to you by none other than the Tired Sports Network and you, the fans, the spectators. You love it. I love it. Moving on. Like I said, start out with the University of Iowa. They won the bye week. Okay, they are 6-2, getting completely refreshed and reloaded and ready to go to take on a very hungry and very kind of on the fence Oregon football team. Oregon comes in to this game at number 9 on the college football playoff brackets. Iowa finally getting some respect, finally, after being ranked the first week and then not being ranked at all the entire rest of the season on the AP poll. And then last night they did the first round of the college football playoff bracket rankings, and Iowa is number 20. And I couldn't be happier. Yes, I know it's just a number, and I know, it's just a ranking, but if you understand the way college football works, and especially with the 12-team bracket when it comes to college football playoffs, that means we are right there. Number 20 is a good spot to be because you don't have a lot of pressure to try and win out all your games, but you're in the mix. It's better. The more wins you have, obviously, the better. The big test for Iowa this weekend in Kinnick Stadium at 2:30 in the afternoon, Central Standard Time. The Oregon Ducks come to Kinnick Stadium. If anybody has ever been to Kinnick Stadium in its entirety, the daytime, midnight, nighttime, I don't give a damn. Kinnick Stadium is a hard place to play in. Quite literally, Kinnick Stadium is a hard place to play in, and the Oregon Ducks are going to find that out. Now, obviously, being as biased as I am, I'm taking Iowa by 3 points and 3 points only because I know what Iowa does or what their criteria and history has been going into big, giant games. On the flip side of that, the Oregon Ducks have been a program since they started in the Big Ten. They have been a program to just grow and grow and grow with the people they have already in their staff on their team as far as like moving up through the ranks. The only thing that's going to screw Iowa is if their offense doesn't keep matching the defense. The offensive defense for the past 2 seasons with Tim Lester as the Iowa offensive coordinator is finally matching. It's finally matching, and it's scary and disgusting and great all at the same time because we're used to seeing seasons for Iowa where the slogan literally was punting is winning. Like, this will literally be one of the best seasons comparatively to that. If anybody remembers the Iowa seasons of football where everything was like, punting is winning. We had Torrey Taylor, we had, Nate Stanley, we had, Hawk, George Kittle before, Sam Laporta, Nico Ragaini. I mean, I could keep going. Like, we've had good teams and offensive systems that haven't matched. And dare I say, the Iowa Hawkeyes have they have a triple option offense. Like, it's ridiculous in kind of the best way possible. Now, moving on, like I said, Iowa is 6-2. Again, they play Oregon on this coming Saturday at 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time, for those of you in different time zones. The Iowa State Cyclones, who obviously I'm going to giggle a little bit because, Iowa, everybody knows, if you know sports, if you know rivalries, Iowa and Iowa State are in-state rivals. Iowa will always be the older sibling. I don't give a damn who you are. But the Iowa State Cyclones have the Iowa Hawkeyes number the past 2 seasons. Currently, they don't, though. They're 5-4. They lost to Arizona State at Jack Trice terribly. Rocco Beck did not play a good game. He also went on record to say that I just sucked. I didn't have a good game. I have to learn to be better. They're 5-4. They have to win a sixth game to get to bowl contention. I think they can do it. It's been a rough season. I mean, you lose 3 of your star receivers, like Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Nolan, Jaden Higgins to the NFL. You're losing some of your offensive line due to injuries. You got some defensive people trying to fill in from the bench. So it's a lot of ups and downs over Iowa State. But Iowa State did have their first 10-win season last season under Coach Matt Campbell, who I frankly think is one of the best college football coaches to touch a field or AstroTurf. Don't argue with me. Argue with your mama. You're not going to change my mind. I've played football for a long time. I've watched a lot of football. You're not going to win that debate with me personally. Either way, and like I said, Iowa State's 5-4. They lost to Arizona State at Jack Trice Stadium, 24-19. They are at TCU this coming Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time on Fox. And the TCU Horned Frogs are a 6.5-point favorite, which is very, very understandable. All of the things. Moving on, the Colorado Buffaloes also not having a great season. They are 3-6. They lost to Arizona 52-17. They are at West Virginia on the 8th at 12 noon. And HBO Max, West Virginia is also a 6.5-point favorite for that game. If you are an individual who likes to bet, I used to gamble on football, but I also thought it was a little unsavory because I was still playing. Either way, moving on, Georgia Tech. This is where we're going to stop for a second. Anybody that has watched college football this year in its entirety should have been paying attention to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Okay. Up until this past weekend, they were undefeated. Came into this last game at number 7 rather, on the AP Top 25 poll. They are now number 8. They are 8-1. They went to NC State and lost 36-48 in a battle, mind you. They lost in a battle. It was a good game. Haynes King threw for just over 250 yards. Jamal Haynes also ran for just about $150 in yards in terms of yards after catch, completions, things like that. I think Haynes King is still, last time I checked, he was still in at least the top 8 for Heisman consideration, if not even a little bit higher. Georgia Tech has a bye week, thankfully. They're going to get a chance to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out how they're going to be able to, finish this tremendous season they're having under Coach Brent Key. I love me some Coach Brent Key. That dude knows how to coach football. And he's so animated. He's a lot like the Nick Sabans. He's a lot like Ed Ogerons. He's a lot like the Urban Meyers, Michigan State, Michigan, those types of years of football. Dan Mullen to an extent. So I think what Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets have is really great. I think they're going to be able to prevail. I think they're even going to be able to propel themselves into a top 5 spot here real soon. Like I said, they have a bye week this week. Then I believe it's the battle for Athens. I believe it's the battle for Georgia itself, Georgia Tech versus University of Georgia. I can't wait to watch that game. We don't do anything Georgia Bulldogs over here. Okay. My family's from Georgia. Listen, I can't. Obviously I went to Iowa, okay, born, raised, grew up there, family, Southern roots. I can't do it. Nothing went with Georgia Bulldog, nothing. I don't want to hear no sick'em. I don't want to hear no barking. I don't want to hear none of that, okay? This is Stingham country over here. I'm taking Georgia Tech by 10. Georgia has looked pretty good all season, as they always do. Georgia is always a powerhouse football team in the group of 4 in terms of ACC, SEC, Big 10, and Big 12 conference football. Obviously, one of the more respected teams in college football. They have a couple of recent championships behind their belt under Coach Kirby Smart. However, I'm still taking Georgia Tech, and I'm pretty sure this game is at Georgia Tech, and if it is, I'm going to end up taking them by 6 points instead. It's kind of like playing in Kinnick Stadium. It's a dark hole, and I really hope that's a night game, just so it's more intensified. And a lot of these in-state rivalry games are happening between the next 10 weeks of 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those people who played in week 0, obviously have had their 2 bye weeks, that type of thing. So it's gonna get ugly, and I can't wait to watch, frankly. I can't wait to watch. Moving on, the Vanderbilt Commodores are another team who lost this weekend at Texas. Texas is now 7-2. Vandy is now number 15 on the AP Top 25 poll. the Vanderbilt Commodores in Diego Pavia lost this game by a field goal, and a close field goal, 31-34, down in Texas. They now play Auburn this coming weekend at home, and it starts at 1600 hours, which happens to be 4 o'clock Central Standard Time, 5 o'clock Eastern Time for those of you in a different time zone. Frankly, and I'm just gonna kind of go out and say it. I really think the Tennessee Volunteer fan base should just stop talking about college football. Specifically, one of my good friends, hashtag Bobby. Sir, I need you to stop being so delusional when it comes to the fact that you keep saying Diego Pavia is not a good quarterback. What? Have you watched college football all season? Or are you just mad that he's got more moxie than 90% of your team? I mean, I would love to see it. Either way, it's kind of the same thing like I was just talking about with Georgia Tech. Haynes King and Jamal Haynes together are like bread and butter, peanut butter and jelly. They've been out here waxing folks. They have one loss on the record, and it came last week. Okay. The Vanderbilt Commodores, like I said, lost. They've lost two. They lost to Alabama and then lost to Texas, two clearly formidable teams in the SEC. So we're going to look to see what comes out of this weekend in terms of college football is concerned. Now kind of moving into a different segue here on the Mack Talk podcast. And if you're just still joining us, I appreciate it for just joining in. Welcome. Thank you. My name is Mack Chuck. You're listening to the Mack Chuck Show. Again, presented to you by TikTok, Live, StreamYard, Facebook, Instagram, and really anywhere else you can get your video and audio streaming. Pleasure. Okay. The Auburn Tigers have fired Hugh Freeze. And again, for those of you who are either have teams in the SEC or have just followed the coaching carousel or what have you in terms of the current trend that is college football coaches getting fired and dumped in the middle of the season due to lack thereof, foot traffic, wins, things like that. Hugh Freeze was 6-6 in the SEC as a whole, mind you. 6 wins and 16 losses in the SEC as almost three full seasons as the Auburn Tigers head coach. He was 15-19 overall. He was 4-5 on this season before they released him, and now the Auburn Tigers are in danger of having a third straight non-winning season. Hopefully, with the interim coach, they can squeeze out another win. They can, kind of squeeze out another win or two to maybe get into bowl contention. Not looking real great, but like I said, they've got Vandy coming to their house this weekend. Who knows? Like I said, it's always any given game day here on the Mack Truck podcast and in sports in general. So listen, that's just how it is. And more or less and more college football news for those of you who are still joining us. And I thank you guys very much for joining me today. Dylan Raiola, starting quarterback for the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team season is over. He broke his right fibula this past weekend. And this comes from Pete Thamel of ESPN. And again, you can fact check everything we say here on the show. We never try to do a show or give information without fact checking first. You can find this information on ESPN.com, Bleacher Report, TheAthletic.com, or really anywhere you would ingest your sports media. Those types of things. But again, like I said, according to Pete Thamel, Dylan Raiola is now out for the rest of the season with a broken right fibula after being sacked just at the start of the third quarter, and due to a fumble versus USC rather. And USC has been on a tear to ruin people's seasons while they're still building their own, and I'm kind of excited for it. I'm not thrilled to play them, however, as an Iowa fan, but I think the rest of the season in its entirety it's going to be great. I can't wait until it happens. But you hate to see, players get injured in any way. It doesn't matter if you're a professional or a collegiate athlete itself. The realm of injury in sports these days is just it happens too much. I mean, you can do everything you can do to prevent it. Sometimes it's just the way you get tackled. Sometimes it's the way you go, run and throw a dump. Sometimes it's just the way you get, socked in the face if you are a pugilistic athlete, boxing, MMA, taekwondo, martial arts, that type of thing. So you never want to laugh at anybody's injuries. And if I come on to one of these damn groups again, whether in my own group, whether on here, whatever that looks like, and y'all are laughing at people getting injured playing sports, I hope you step on a bunch of Legos and stub your toe under the couch, because why are you laughing at people that are getting injured? First of all, if you are one of those individuals who enjoys people's pain physically, you're disgusting and demented, and I hope your toast is burnt. Because why? First of all, if you were in that position, if you even had a sliver of a chance to be in a position like that, you wouldn't want people laughing at you, especially knowing how hard it is to get into a professional setting or a professional look when it comes to sports. And that even goes for collegiate too, because now with the NIL and all the things, these college players are taking their craft and their sport and their recovery and their studies more seriously because teams are paying them to play, to play football, because it's not just the 2025. This is not just where we can come in and get on scholarship to play sports. Like, I'm missing out on, paying my bills. I'm missing out on, classes. I'm missing out on, things that normal college students have. So as a collegiate athlete, I should also be able to make money rather than having to take time away from my studies or take time away from me, honing my craft to go find a part-time job so I could pay a phone bill or pay my car note or whatever that looks like. So those of you people who are out here laughing at injured players, suck it. Go find a life way down the street. Go over there somewhere. Go be yourself by yourself. Can't stand it. Either way, like I said, USC beat Nebraska 21-17. The Huskers are now 6-3 overall, 3-3 in the Big Ten. And they come to Iowa in about 3-ish weeks. Actually, Iowa goes there. I lied. It's going to be interesting. I wanted to see Nebraska at its full strength. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen with Dylan Raiola being out again with that broken right fibula just at the start of the third quarter in this past weekend's game. Dylan Raiola so far, really up until he got injured, had just about 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, had a 66.4 QB rating, which is 50th overall, which is interesting to me because Nebraska has been pretty much ranked in the AP top 25 in terms of that, off and on all season up until the college playoff rankings last night. But obviously with that injury to Dylan Raiola and their loss, it doesn't exactly make their resume look good. But we've seen stranger things happen in college football. And I mean, if you follow it, you watch it, you breathe it, you know, we've had all kinds of crazy things happen. Either way, 1,171 yards, completion versus conference opponents for Dylan Raiola, 10 touchdowns versus conference opponents for Dylan Raiola of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, had a 69.9% completion versus conference opponents, which in other words had just about 70% completion ratings against teams in the Big Ten, 146.6 rating in the conference against conference opponents. Again, has that little bit of the higher to mid-tier passer rating against conference opponents. Not out of this is conference opponents means anybody in the Big Ten. So Iowa, Michigan State, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Northwestern, anybody else really in the Big Ten, and again, Washington, Oregon, those types of things. So, and then again, Nebraska is at UCLA this weekend at 2100 hours, and I do believe that game is also on Fox. So we're still gonna stick with college football here for just a little bit, and just to kind of really give kind of an outlook or kind of a stretch in terms of like what the detriment of wins means for some of these teams that are on the cusp of getting bowl games, like Iowa State. Colorado could win out, essentially get a bowl game. That the overall fact is the college football playoff is now a 12-team bracket, and obviously the top 12 teams get into the bracket. So then you still have those bottom 7-8 teams that, 11 teams, whatever it is, to be on the cusp. Iowa is one of those teams. Nebraska, if they were to get a ranking last night, they are also one of those teams. Washington is one of those teams. Notre Dame, who also made the list, I'm not quite sure I agree with. Their strength of schedule hasn't exactly been great, and their quarterback isn't exactly accurate, but he's also been on the bench for the past couple seasons. Obviously, behind Riley Leonard. You also have Jeremiah Love, who I think needs to be more considered on the Heisman watch list. That's just me. And I do see some comments here. And again, thank you guys for joining me here on the TikTok stream, TikTok live, TikTok shop. We love the TikTok shop. Get all your Mack Truck merchandise from there as well. Facebook, StreamYard, Discord, YouTube, all the things up here. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Make sure you like, follow, share, and subscribing. Leave a review, leave feedback, leave me a picture, something, just to know that you either appreciate or don't appreciate, or that you just don't really care that I'm here. Either way, I'm here for y'all, for your very mild sports comment and commentary. Okay. But like I said, kind of with the realm of college football these days, it could be 4 or 5 powerhouse teams that are doing really, really well, and doing what they're supposed to, winning out the entire rest of the season, and then they could lose to somebody that they have no business losing. For that, I'm meaning the Oregon Ducks. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised how loud it is in Kinnick Stadium. Kinnick Stadium is like playing in the Indianapolis Colts stadium. It's like playing in the Loud House. The Kinnick Stadium is literally like the Loud House 2.0. Right up there with Georgia Tech Stadium as well. So Oregon is a different team. Obviously they had Dylan Gabriel the past couple seasons as their lefty phenom up there. Obviously he's slinging the pill for the Cleveland Browns right next to Shedeur Sanders, phenom, obviously out of University of Colorado. They've also produced the likes of Bo Nix. Bo Nix had his college resurgence at Oregon. DJ Moore right now is making his case to be, the next one of the next legends or highly talented people to come out of the University of Oregon. But you still have to travel to Iowa. People don't understand how difficult it is to travel and play a sport, let alone having to travel and come to Iowa, where it's probably going to snow. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. There's snow in the forecast for most of the Midwest in general, which includes Iowa City and the generalized United States when you're in like Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Michigan, Wisconsin, all those. And to that, Oregon, I say good luck, because these Iowa boys down here are used to the cold. They're used to having to bundle up. They're used to having to play through the cold. Not a lot of people know how to play in cold. Not a lot, especially West Coasters. Not a lot of those teams know how to play in cold. And I can guarantee you, the second there's even an inclination of DJ Moore being uncomfortable, that pocket's going to come crumbling down. But in the same respect, Mark Gronowski, who's never actually played in the cold as an Iowa player, I think is going to have a little bit of difficulty. However, he has been in an Iowa uniform all season. He's looked better and better every single game, even the 2 games where he was dinged up and banged up. I think the Iowa Hawkeyes are going to make this a knockdown, drag-out muscle knuckle fight. It's going to be crazy. I hate that it's at 2:30. I hate that it's a daytime game. Like, this is a nighttime worthy game. Now, they're now both ranked in the college football playoff ranking. Oregon is 9, Iowa is 20. Okay, obviously 11 spots in between them two. Between the two, it's going to be a dogfight. Anytime that you have an Iowa team ranked in the slightest, no, it's a dogfight. Okay, but like I said, in terms of Iowa doesn't have any pressure. You have a number behind your team name now, but it's not like a top 10. It's not like a top 5. Like, Oregon is in the top 10, and they're fighting to, keep their spot alive in the college bracket. Iowa is known for ruining seasons. I'm going to just throw that out there right now. I've seen a lot of things on social media. A lot of people, kind of come out and be like, oh, Oregon's not losing to Iowa. Have y'all ever played in Kinnick Stadium? Have you played a corn-fed offensive line? Like, my starting right tackle ingests 10,000 calories before he even hits the warm-up field. He ingests just about 22,000 calories a day. Jennings Dunker. If you don't know who Jennings Dunker is, I highly suggest you look him up. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you get your content, go look up Jennings Dunker and tell me if you think they're ready, because the entire offensive line looks like him, minus the red hair and giant mullet, which I adore. Love it. I wish I could grow a mullet. If I was still playing football, I would probably still try to grow a mullet and be exactly like him. Either way, we're moving on into the next topic here. And again, I thank you guys for joining me. This is the Mack Truck Show, the Mack Truck Podcast via TikTok Live, TikTok Shop, StreamYard, Discord, Facebook, and presented to you by the Tired Sports Network. Also presented to you by True Studios, 8421 University Avenue, Suite N, Clive, Iowa, the beard and barber stylings of Gary Duke Williams himself. Make sure you hit him up on Booksy.com for a fresh cut and or fade. Okay, beard maintenance. You need it. He's got it. Make sure you hit him up and tell him the Mack Truck sent you. Now we're talking baseball. I've been itching to get to this, and I put baseball towards the end of the docket purposely because there's so much to unfold here, for the record. If anybody in this chat over here that's listening verbally via the airwaves, baseball is America's favorite pastime. I don't care who you are. I don't care what planet you think you come from. I don't care what job you think you run. Baseball is literally America's pastime, and I love it. And I see a question here. Is shot put in track and field good for someone who plays O-line? Yes. To answer your question, doing shot put, track and field events helps to kind of build the muscle dexterity you need in terms of learning how to kick back, in terms of learning how to shed blocks, in terms of learning how to take blocks at the point of attack. But that is a subject we are absolutely going to touch on another day. But thank you for the question, Ash. I appreciate it. Kind of going back into baseball here. The Los Angeles Dodgers are now your back-to-back World Series champions for Major League Baseball. The Dodgers come back and beat the Blue Jays 5-4 in Game 7. The LA Dodgers are literally just... they're a bunch of mutants from another planet in the best way possible. I'm still trying to figure out where Mr. Yamamoto came from and where obviously Shohei Ohtani came from. Pretty sure they came from the same damn planet. Freddie Freeland, Mookie Betts. I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, back-to-back World Series champions. You almost lose your chances of going back-to-back to the Toronto Blue Jays, who, mind you, the Toronto Blue Jays catcher, who is 5'8", was packing groceries at a grocery store or doing some kind of like Amazon delivery job before they picked him up. They literally picked him up in one of the like Mexican G leagues and said, hey, we want to give you a chance to be catcher because all of our catchers on reserve are hurt. Made the team and damn near won the World Series by himself. And it's crazy. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. I love it here. The Los Angeles Dodgers, and we're just going to give you, some stats from both teams here just to give you an idea of how incredibly played this game was. Like how incredible to watch this game and how it's been, where it's going, how it started. Like these stat lines alone will tell you how the entire series went if you didn't watch the series at all or not even a game or an inning. The Los Angeles Dodgers had, in Game 7 alone, we're just going off of Game 7 right now, 11 hits, 3 home runs, 22 total bases, and 10 runners left on base. The Toronto Blue Jays had 14 hits, 1 home run, 20 total bases, and 14 runners left on base. If that doesn't tell you that is a formula in terms of hitting for an immense Game 7 of a MLB World Series in 2025, I don't know what else would. Now, going into some defensive and pitching stats, the Los Angeles Dodgers, 12 strikeouts, 120 strikes, 14 hits allowed, and 4 walks allowed. Toronto Blue Jays, 5 strikeouts, 105 strikes, 11 hits allowed, and 5 walks. That literally is the equivalent to a 3-point basketball game in a deficit. It's crazy to me how close these games as of the playoffs, since the playoffs started to now, have been. One of these games went to 18 innings, which is the equivalent of 2 damn games in one night. That game was 6 hours and 39 minutes. It got done. In fact, Buster Olney and Jess Pascuzzi was doing post-game interviews till 3 a.m. after that 18-inning game. And then they had to make almost a 6 or 7, 8 hour turnaround during that series to go play Game 5. Like, what? That just goes to show you what kind of talent these teams have. Like, in baseball is a sport to where you have to be good all over the board to really make a statement in terms of making a playoff run. Like your offense, you're like bats have to be swinging, gloves have to be catching balls, plays have to be made, and pitches have to be strikes or outs for a long run to go. The LA Dodgers have literally found the formula for the past 2 seasons. It's ridiculous. I mean, you now had Shohei Ohtani, who was recovering from Tommy John surgery from the year before, do nothing but bat. Last year was the first person in baseball history to have a 50-50 season, 50 home runs and 50 plus stolen bases. In its entirety is nuts as a whole. Then you move to 2025, where you're still the reigning defending champions from the year before. Now I'm fully recovered from Tommy John's, and I'm out here just pitching things into a black hole like fire, and everything's damn near strikes. Then I have a protege in Yamamoto who's doing the exact same thing, and Yamamoto is now submitted as one of the LA Dodgers legends as a rookie. He's a rookie. Like, he's brand new, wet behind the ears, still smelling like Similac. In terms of baseball, is now a legend in LA and also won the World Series MVP. What? Like, what? The math ain't mathing here. I'm for it, frankly. Math ain't mathing. Either way, Yoshino Yamamoto, like I said, saving pitcher, winning pitcher. He's 5-1 on the season, pitched 2.2 innings, had 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, and 1 batter walked. Okay. Shane Bieber, obviously losing pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, is 2-1 on the season, pitched 1 inning, had 1 hit, 1 earned run, no strikeouts, and no walks. Now listen, again, anybody who's still with us, and I appreciate you guys thank you for thinking of me on all your streams, like, share, subscribe, all the things. This World Series was the most viewed World Series since 2017. For those of you who remember, a combined total of 25.98 million viewers, which is a 10% increase over the past couple of years, over the 23.19 million from the last Game 7, which was the Nationals defeating the Houston Astros 6-2 in 2019. The Houston game victory over the Dodgers in 17 averaged 29.2 million viewers. And listen, when you have sports and you have good sports, it's going to be watched. It's going to be watched. I don't give a damn who you are, what you say. When sports are good, or that particular sport rather is being talked about, there's going to be views. That's just how it is. Like, it's just like watching CNN or watching PGA or whatever it is. When things are when tea is piping hot, people will watch. When the tea is piping hot, people are going to engage and join it. And that's sports. That's life. You love it. I love it. If you don't, what are you interested in sports for? That's my generalized motto. And again, I appreciate you guys for joining me here today on the Mack Truck Show. This is brought to you by the Tired Sports Network, TikTok Live, TikTok Shop, as well as you, the listeners, the viewers, the spectators, the fans. I appreciate it, because without you guys and a platform, I'm just a girl talking to myself. Hate that for me. Now, time for our NFL recap. Also, big shout out to Sexy Fuzzy Peach and all the people in my TikTok stream chat. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I see y'all in the Discord chat and YouTube chats as well. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate all the love and support. But we're still here talking sports. It's Wild Wednesday with Mack Truck. Okay, that's what we do. You see the banner here, the Mack Truck Podcast. You see it on this stream over here, the Mack Truck Podcast right here. We're here. Okay, I love it. You love it. We're hopping back into football, but NFL style. Now listen. We were talking about injuries with Dylan Raiola. Now we have to talk about injuries to Jayden Daniels, and who is more than likely out for the rest of the season. Jayden Daniels dislocated his non-throwing arm after a really gruesome tackle versus the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. And if you've seen the images, okay, if you saw it live, I'm still cringing thinking about it. I've dislocated my elbow before. Can't do it. Oh gosh, and it was so painful to watch. And they had, obviously cut the commercial, all the things. And some people are blaming Dan Quinn for leaving Jayden Daniels out there in a huge deficit, or during a huge deficit. Now, I can't say I disagree, but I can't say I completely agree as well. I mean, obviously, this is a professional entity. This is the NFL. This is the National Football League. Okay. All of these players and coaches that we're seeing and viewing and watching coach the game, play the game, are getting paid to do just that. So when you are paying your starting quarterback as much you're paying your starting quarterback, you're going to try to do everything to for him to get those opportunities to put the team on its back and to propel them into a winning situation. Unfortunately for Jane Daniels, he was already compromised. He was already out for a good week or two with an ankle injury. He came out of the Dallas game with an ankle injury, finished the game, had a tweaked ankle. Marcus Mariota had to stop in his place. Marcus Mariota, started a couple games ago as well before they put Jane Daniels back in. Everybody's blaming Dan Quinn for not giving Marcus Mariota the snaps and kind of preserving Jane Daniels. I see it both ways. It's not necessarily entirely Coach Quinn's fault, but it's also not necessarily entirely not his fault. But my question is where the hell was y'all offensive line? Someone answer that question for me. Y'all, and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's offensive line. Yeah, y'all are getting paid millions of dollars to protect that skinny man back there throwing the ball. Because if he's not protected, we don't score points. He gets hurt. You get your behinds chewed. And we're having a losing season and things are falling apart from there. Okay. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Football is a team sport. Things happen across the board. Coaching decisions could have been better. Passing decisions could have been better. Offensive line blocks, things like that could have been better. Things could have just been better. It's the shoulda, woulda, coulda game. Obviously, everybody knows that. You can't control it. You can't fix what happened. You can just try to prevent it for the next. Either way, more stats for this game. Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks are having a season. Sam Darnold, this is his resurgence in football as well. Obviously, everybody knows. Started out with Jets. He did not look good with Jets. Went to the Vikings. Started to rebuild his resume in terms of football with the Vikings. The Vikings decided, okay, we've had enough for one season just because we drafted J.J. McCarthy, Heisman Trophy winner, or National College Football Champion out of the University of Michigan with Coach Jim Harbaugh, all the things. Gets hurt during preseason, insert Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold has a killer season. Then gets picked up and gets a pretty good contract with Seattle and is now making a name for himself in the NFL, a household name, and he's literally on track to get a max extension, whether he stays with Seattle or another team picks him up. Sam Darnold missed 3 passes all game, folks. He was on a perfect string until the third quarter. Missed 3 passes. He got 330 yards, 21 for 24, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. 21 for 24. That's 3 passes. That's not even a whole hand. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He missed 3 passes, not even a whole hand. Ridiculous to me. Jane Daniels, up until the time he got hurt, 153 passing yards, 16 for 22, 1 interception. Kenneth Walker, the third, 42 yards, 11 carries. Chris Rodriguez Jr., 65 yards, 12 carries, 1 touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigma, 8 receptions. Zach Ertz, 4 receptions. And I just think that a lot of these spectators and fans and personalities, commentators, whatever you want to call them, stop looking for somebody to blame. Did y'all ever just think that it could have happened? Say injuries happen in sports. That's a thing. Hell, injuries happen when people walk down the street. You could eat a whole curb of concrete and by tripping over your own feet. Injuries happen in life, but especially in the world of sports. I don't know what else you want me to say. Either way, just kind of moving into more stats here. The Kansas City Chiefs lost on the road at MetLife Stadium, Highmark Stadium rather, to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are now 6-2. Kansas City Chiefs are 5-4. Lost this one on the road by 6 points, 21-28. Patrick Mahomes, 250 yards, 15 for 34, 1 interception. Josh Allen, 273 yards, 23 for 26, who also missed 3 passes all game, for the record. The mutiny of some of these quarterbacks is nuts to me. But that's what happens when you get paid to play and you know your sport and you know your craft. You have great games like this. Like I said, 23 for 26 with 1 touchdown. Kareem Hunt, 49 yards, 1 touchdown, 11 carries. James Cook the third, 114 yards for 27 carries. Rashid Rice, 80 yards, 4 receptions. Dalton Kincaid, 101 yards for 6 receptions on the day. Okay, moving on into our Thursday Night Football recap. We should have started here, but that's not how I have my notes. If you don't like it, I don't care. Either way, Thursday Night Football recap. Baltimore Ravens get this one done. in Hard Rock Stadium versus to a T and those Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are now 2-7. Ravens 3-5. Ravens have struggled a lot this season due to the entirety of the fact that Lamar Jackson has been out with a hamstring injury. Hollywood Brown was out. Isaiah Likely hasn't been able to get targets just because obviously his quarterback's been out. But Derrick Henry has been doing Derrick Henry things. Obviously, King Henry does what King Henry does. Lamar Jackson, 18 for 23, 204 yards, 4 touchdowns. To a T, 261 yards, 25 for 41 interception. Derrick Henry, 119 yards, 19 carries. Donovan Achane, 67 yards for 14 carries. On the day for Thursday Night Football, Zay Flowers, 64 yards for 7 receptions. Jalen Waddle, 82 yards for 6 receptions on the day. More just scores from this weekend in terms of the NFL. And if you guys are joining me now, thank you. I appreciate your watching and listening to the Mack Truck Podcast, the Mack Truck Show here on TikTok, Live, StreamYard, and wherever else you get your audio and streaming pleasure via the Tired Sports Network, via In My Bag Apparel, as well as them Patent Spirits, as well as Truth Studios. Denver Broncos visit the Houston Texans, get one on the road by 3, 18-15. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Lions by 3 in Ford Field, 27-24 in favor of the Vikings. The Falcons lose to the Patriots in New England at Gillette Stadium, 23-24, 1-point loss for the Falcons. The Bears are out here also having a freaking season. Not sure where they're coming from, but I kind of like it. They almost beat the Dallas Cowboys, but Dallas Cowboys are not having a good season. We'll get into that in a minute. Chicago Bears under Ben Johnson, 47-42 over the Bengals in Cincinnati. Indianapolis Colts lose one to the Steel Curtain, 20-27. Panthers also win to a knockout drag-out fight with the Green Bay Packers, who also just lost Tucker Kraft to a right torn ACL. He is also out for the season. Panthers get this one by a field goal, 16-13. Jaguars beat the Raiders in Vegas, 30-29, and not really a barn burner, but more or less a carnival burner, a great game, if you will. Now we're moving on into Monday Night Football. Ugh, God. Just the thought of this, that I have to even report this, is agitating, but also in the same respect, it's the Dallas Cowboys, so nothing right now surprises me, especially since Jerry Jones is still alive and well and kicking and running the team into the ground. So either way, Arizona Cardinals do what they do. They came in and ruined it for the Dallas Cowboys. And it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Dak Prescott had a pretty decent game, but obviously it's a team sport, so you know everybody gets praised and everybody gets ridiculed, gets consequences, whatever that looks like. Jacoby Brissett started this game for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is now on IR. That did just come across my ticker via ESPN. Kyler Murray is out right now with a right foot injury of some kind, possibly broken metacarpal, things like that. Either way, Jacoby Brissett did his thing, 261 yards, 21 for 31, 2 touchdowns. Dak Prescott, 250 yards, 24 for 39, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Amari DiMercato, I like DiMercato. He's kind of just done his thing under the radar all season and has just been building this Arizona Cardinals running game and opening up their passing game for the offense, and I kind of love to see it. Like I said, 79 yards, 14 carries. Javonte Williams for the Dallas Cowboys also had himself a game, 83 yards for 15 carries. Marvin Harrison Jr., 7 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, who was locked up all night. I'm going to just say that right now. CeeDee Lamb was locked up all night. But obviously, you have to lock up CeeDee Lamb all night. You have to throw sometimes 2 and 3 different coverages at him at the same time, because that's the kind of playmaker CeeDee Lamb is. If CeeDee Lamb can't score if he can't get open, and they found a way to shut him down all night. Although he had 7 receptions for 85 yards, did not score the touchdown, or did not score any touchdowns for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's really unfortunate. The Dallas Cowboys also, for the record, in terms of just trade acquisitions, trade deadline, things of that nature. We're going to get into the trade deadline as far as this details tomorrow. They did just pick up Quinn Williams, pass rusher from the New York Jets, and linebacker Logan Wilson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, these two are really interesting to me because if you're going to go after a linebacker, why don't you just open up the conversation with Micah Parsons again? Like, you need a middle linebacker, so you just don't even think about trying to trade Michael Parsons back to the team. Like, the math doesn't math for me. However, in terms of actually having a little bit better of a pass rush now, Quinn Williams is added to that front four with Odigizua, with Kenny Clark, and I'm interested to see how this Matt Eberflus ran defense for this season of the Dallas Cowboys 2025 hopefully starts to turn it around. I mean, the only thing that's saving them right now is the fact that they tied with the Green Bay Packers, but it's also hurting them because they don't have a winning season right now. Dallas Cowboys have a bye week currently. They are 3-5-1, 3-4-1. There are a lot of things got to happen before the Dallas Cowboys can even talk about trying to get into the postseason. Y'all have to start winning games first and foremost. Y'all still have to start actually, I don't know, rushing the damn quarterback. How about that? Better yet, giving somebody else for Deron Bland on the other side while Trayvon Diggs is, still doing some of that knee maintenance, something, anything. That'd be great. But we're going to get into the trade deadline and everything a little bit later tomorrow afternoon. But I want to kind of hop into kind of our final topic here on the Mack Truck Show. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, coming in, all the things, leaving the comments. I appreciate it. Now, listen, this topic kind of came out of the blue. Now, like I said, if you've been here with us for a while, know the show, you know how we run things here. I'm a huge advocate for women's sports. Obviously, I'm a female athlete, aspiring professional athlete in all things sports. Okay. Very much an advocate for mixed gender sports, very much an advocate for real and raw conversations. This is one of those real and raw conversations. We're going back to the realm of MMA, just like we did last week and 2 weeks ago. Last week, we covered Simone Biles. This week, we're covering our Wednesday conversation topic anyway. Now, anybody that knows Ronda Rousey knows how she got, her claim to fame or whatever you want to call it through the UFC, being the first female champion for the UFC and essentially paving the way for women to fight in the UFC, because if there was no Ronda Rousey going up to Dana White and basically telling him, you are going to change this, I'm going to be the first female to fight in the MMA world in terms of UFC. If it wasn't for her, we would not be having this conversation. Now, Ronda Rousey has been kind of making her way back to training and all the things in terms of MMA. There's been a lot of training videos of her working on her striking, working on her different grappling with what seems to be a new coaching staff, new team, that type of thing, or just different people from her previous staff, obviously, with the disappearance of her coach, Coach Edmond. I think the fact of the matter is Ronda Rousey still has a lot to say about the sport. She's obviously, I think it's pretty obvious now that she's trying to make a comeback to whether it's WWE or UFC MMA. Ronda Rousey stated on an interview and or podcast about 3 or 4 days ago in terms of Joe Rogan. The conversation was had that basically in a nutshell, she said Joe Rogan isn't an expert. He is a fan. He's a fan with a fan base, basically, and then said that Taekwondo was not a fight, it's a point sparring match, things like that. But essentially, basically said he wasn't an expert because he's never fought an actual sanctioned MMA fight. Now, there's so many ways that we could go about this. There's so many ways that we could just unfold this, if you will. I am on literally the fence. I'm on both sides of this. So a lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, like you need to have, if you're going to be considered an expert in a certain sport or a certain realm, it's it pays to have experience. But In what respect do you have to have experience? Like, do you have to have fought in the UFC or in a huge professionally paid promotion to be considered an expert? Do you need to have, some kind of high level amateur, collegiate status, Olympic status to be considered an expert in said sport? Or do you just need to know a lot about the sport, that type of thing? Being an athlete myself, being an aspiring professional athlete, those types of things, I see both sides. There have been, a perfect example, there have been coaches and commentators that have no high level experience at all when it comes to the realm of sport that they are, quote unquote, an expert at, that know the sport, their realm, and dissect it with zero problems, like they've stepped into the ring, stepped on a field, that type of thing. Then there are those types of players and coaches that become analysts that have actually been through it. They've been through, training camps. They've been through fight camps. They've been through injuries through fight camps. They've been through the agony of fighting, or training for the game, playing the game, all those things. So I understand, but I can't necessarily sit here and say that Joe Rogan isn't an expert, because he literally stopped being the host of he literally stopped being the host of Fear Factor to basically take on a full-time commentating role when the UFC started to take off, when Spike TV was, they came into those agreements with Zuffa and started creating the Ultimate Fighter series. Joe Rogan has literally been around since the inception of the UFC. Now, obviously, he's been around a little bit longer than Ronda Rousey, because Ronda Rousey and women's MMA didn't come until 2013, 2012. I don't think you can sit there and say either that Taekwondo is not fighting. Also, coming from a Taekwondo background, I will say that Taekwondo is not necessarily MMA. It is a part of MMA, because MMA literally stands for mixed martial arts. Taekwondo is under the umbrella of mixed martial arts, because it's not just one single martial art that's in martial arts. It is literally a mixture of several different types of martial arts, which is why the entirety of this argument between, Joe Rogan and Ronda Rousey, and and I think it's funny that people are bringing up, like, Ronda Rousey is like, and they only ever seem to bring up the last two fights that she had. The time, obviously, that kind of derailed her career, Holly Holm gave her a head kick to the face, and she tried, waited 6-7 months, had her jaw wired shut, all the things, went to try to get her title back, versus Amanda Nunes. That didn't work out. Obviously she quit for a long time, went to WWE, had three babies, and now she's back in the saddle. So I completely understand, but in the same respect, I don't think you can necessarily say that Taekwondo isn't a fighting sport, because it absolutely is a fighting sport, because you have headgear, you're striking, you're not necessarily taking down, you're not necessarily grappling, that type of thing, but you're sweating, you're perspirating, I'm kicking and punching and landing points as a point scoring match. It is still a fight. I can still get hurt. It's just not in the realm of MMA, because it's one martial art under the realm of mixed martial arts. And for me, another perfect example of, like, just a commentator or somebody who has never necessarily stepped into a boxing ring or a pugilistic sport is Max Kellerman. Anybody that knows boxing or watches boxing, is a fan of boxing in any way, shape, or form, knows that Max Kellerman has been the dude behind the mic on about 75 to 85% of major boxing cards, men's, women's, it don't matter, in between, since the inception, it feels like, of the pay-per-view platform template, in terms of, obviously, your pay-per-viewing, big headline cards, big money cards, that type of thing. And people still consider him an expert. There's a lot of people who can. Stephen A. Smith, another perfect example. This man is, and don't get me wrong, I love me some Stephen A. Smith. I'm not poo-pooing anything that he's saying or done, but Stephen A. Smith is also a perfect example of somebody who's considered an expert, but has never necessarily played the respective sports that he talks about at a high level. But again, goes back to our question, what is supposed to be considered a high level of play when it comes to getting the expert status? That's kind of where I'm going to leave you guys for today's show, just to kind of give you that, like, what constitutes as levels of physical expertise to be considered an expert on your respective sport or respective realm. Obviously, it helps to have experience, to you can kind of, be that person on the outside to walk people through something, like a fight camp, or like what it's like to have to cut weight, what it's like to have to, have OTAs and, spring batting practice and, things like that. It helps to have experience. But even to some extent, if you have experience, doesn't mean you have experience, further than what you have, if that makes sense. Like, you can have all the experience in the world, but if you've not been at it in some kind of professional realm standpoint, that type of thing, I don't think you're necessarily prepared enough to have those types of deep conversations. Like, perfect example, there's a lot of people on here who can't tell me what a duo block is in football. A lot of people on here can't tell me how to dissect a cover three. I can barely dissect a cover three, and I've played football since I was 6, played 15 years in the women's league, being coached by former NFL coaches, former NFL players. I've met a lot of NFL players. I've stood next to Marshawn Lynch. I've stood next to Alex Smith. I stood next to Brock Purdy. I could keep going, but I don't necessarily have to do that because I've physically done what they've done. And I think that's the biggest misconception is like, oh, you have to be a professional. Like, you have to be, or have had to have done it in a professional light for your expertise to matter. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I will say, in terms of just this entirety of Ronda Rousey, I think she has an absolute point, because to be considered an expert in MMA, you see a lot of Daniel Cormier, Michael Bisping, Dominic Cruz, 3 perfect examples of people that are considered experts who have done this. But then you also have John Anik. You have, Kenny Florian fought. I mean, you have all kinds of people. Ariel Helwani, who's never really stepped into a ring professionally to have a sanctioned fight, whether it be Risen, whether it be ONE, whether it be Bellator, whether it be PFL or the UFC, never stepped a foot, but is considered an expert because of the time that he's put into it, the time that he's, allotted. So there's just a lot of moving parts, but I can't sit here and necessarily say that he's not an expert because he's been around the sport, but you haven't been around the sport in a sense of actually being an athlete in the sport. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. So I appreciate you joining me. We will be back either tomorrow or Friday for our second episode of the week. I'm going to go over some more NBA, some more trade deadline news with the NFL, more college football preparation in terms of week 11. I'm excited. You're excited. If you're not, I don't know what you're here watching me for, but I appreciate you coming in. Big shout out to the Tired Sports Network. Big shout out to you guys, the fans, the spectators, everything. Big shout out to the TikTok shop, TikTok Live. Also, big shout out to our sponsors, In My Bag Apparel, True Studios, and Pat and Them Spirits. My name is Mackenzie Brooks, aka the Mack Truck. I appreciate you guys for joining me in the illustrious words of Ellen DeGeneres. Be kind to one another. In the illustrious words of the great Yinza himself, Pat McAfee. Be a friend, tell friends something nice and change your life. In the illustrious words of myself and the great Prescott Kelly, stay up, stay blessed, stay tuned, and stay sporty. We'll see you on the next one.